The moment I saw Karen Piton marching up my driveway, scowl in full force, finger already wagging like she was conducting a band only she could hear, I knew it was game time. You know that feeling when you just know. You're about to witness a mess you didn't create, but you're sure as hell gonna finish. That was me. Karen, in her usual shrill soprano, barked that I had exactly 1 week to join the HOA or she'd see me in court. What she didn't know, what made me grin like a maniac as she stormed up my porch, was that I'd been waiting 3 months for her to walk right into my little trap. Let me back up for a second. I'm David Thornton, and about 6 months ago I moved into Maple Ridge Estates after landing a job downtown. My house is the kind of place you dream about, a big corner lot with these massive old oak trees, a porch that wraps around so you can sit out with a drink and watch the world spin. Perfect, right? Except for one detail nobody thought would matter. My property line is set exactly 18 inches outside the official HOA boundary. Yeah, you heard that right. 18 inches of pure, unfiltered freedom from Karen's empire. Now, Karen Piton has been the self-proclaimed queen of the Maple Ridge HOA for 8 years. I say self-proclaimed because ask around, nobody remembers voting for her. She kept her grip with intimidation paperwork no one read, and a healthy dose of threats, real or implied. She ran the place like her own kingdom, handing out fines if your grass was a hair too long or you painted your door the wrong shade of white. Didn't matter if you were just doing touch-ups. My first real taste of her kingdom came in week 2. She showed up with a welcome basket, and I'm using that term loosely. The only thing inside that basket was a thick stack of HOA bylaws, a fee schedule that could make your head spin, and a compliance form as thick as a phone book. She hit me with her sweet tea voice saying, all new residents had to register with the HOA, hand over a $500 initiation fee, and then cough up $150 every month just for the privilege of living under her thumb. When I told her real polite that my house wasn't in the HOA, her face went through a rainbow of reds and purples before she settled on a shade I honestly hadn't seen outside of cartoons. She snatched my deed, squinted at the survey map, then snapped, "There must be some mistake. I'll look into it." That's when the campaign started. Letters one after another, each one nastier than the last, started landing in my mailbox, all with her favorite HOA letterhead. Join now or face legal consequences. She called me a freeloader, said I was dragging down property values, all because I didn't want to pay her protection money. Never mind, my lawn was cut better than hers, and my porch was always swept. Then, at the next HOA meeting, which I could hear from my back deck since it's practically next door, she started her public shaming tour. Karen spent the first 15 minutes ranting about the holdout on Elm Street, me, who was ruining the neighborhood with my non-compliance. Most folks just nodded or looked at their shoes, but a couple gave me those little apologetic half smiles as they walked past my place afterward. She got real creative. One morning I found a very official-looking document taped to my front door, claimed the city had expanded the HOA to include my lot. The letterhead was just wrong enough to give it away. The city seal looked traced, and the mayor's signature looked like a kid's doodle. Another day, she claimed state law required every house within 500 feet of an HOA to join. Total nonsense. She even got her nephew, who works at some law office 2 towns over, to send me a cease and desist letter. Legalese stacked a mile high, but not a drop of sense. I laughed and filed it in my evidence folder right alongside all her other threats. But she just wouldn't stop. Saturday morning in September, I'm making coffee and my security app goes off motion detected in the backyard. Who do I see on camera? Karen herself, poking around my shed, snapping pictures, scribbling on a clipboard like she's auditioning for CSI Suburbs. She was literally trespassing on my property to write me up for violating rules I wasn't even subject to. I stepped onto the deck and, as calm as you please, asked if I could help her with something. She didn't even flinch, just waved her clipboard like it was a badge and rattled off a list of violations: shed color garden decorations, bird feeder too tall. I told her she was trespassing. She snorted and claimed HOA officials had the right to inspect any property in the neighborhood. That's when I dropped the first real bomb. I told her I was a real estate attorney specializing in property law and HOA disputes. Her face, oh man, I wish I had a picture. Shock, anger, a flicker of panic. Still, she wasn't about to fold. She huffed that rules were rules, and I'd be seeing fines totaling over $3,000. Then she spun and nearly tripped over my hose trying to make her dramatic exit. Here's what Karen never figured out every time she escalated. I kept a record. Every letter, every threat, every minute of trespassing caught on security cameras all tucked away. And yeah, I hired a private investigator just in case she was dumb enough to leave a trail. He found a gold mine. Turns out Karen wasn't just a control freak, she was up to her neck in HOA misconduct. So that Monday, I sent two things to Karen. First, a formal cease and desist from my law firm listing every documented harassment, defamation, trespass. Second, notice of a lawsuit seeking damages for harassment, emotional distress, property rights violations, plus fraud for her forged documents. I made sure to include everything right down to the shoddy legal threats from her nephew. Karen's next move, classic. She called an emergency HOA meeting, whipped everyone into a frenzy, said I was trying to destroy the community and they needed to unite against me. But here's the twist: I showed up. Walked in right as she was reaching the peak of her speech room, dead silent as I walked to the podium. Karen tried to block me, but the other board members were curious. I laid out my case, simple and clear: property records, the forged docs, security footage of her trespassing. Then the twist nobody saw coming: my investigator had found proof Karen was embezzling HOA funds. Trips, home upgrades, all paid for by association money. Neighbors who'd been scared for years finally started speaking up, stories about fines, bullying, special assessments that disappeared. The tension in that room, you could slice it. One older woman broke down sobbing about the $800 fine Karen slapped on her for her grandkids' chalk drawings. I told everyone the local news would be covering this tomorrow, and oh, by the way, the district attorney was already interested in the embezzlement. Karen's face cycled from red to white to green. She shrieked about interference and personal vendettas, but the board had had enough. A vote of no confidence, unanimous except for Karen herself. The fallout was a whirlwind. News vans on the street, neighbors finally talking the DA's office, launching an investigation. More evidence flooded in: fraudulent fines, double dipping on expenses, even fake invoices from shell companies she controlled. The civil lawsuit flew through court. Karen tried to lawyer up, but after 3 different attorneys took one look at the evidence, they ran for the hills. She had to represent herself. It was almost sad. Almost. In court, she tried everything, claimed she had implied authority, said I was just out to get her. The judge wasn't buying any of it. She even tried to submit one of her forged city documents as evidence. Judge stared at it, then at her, and asked if she was seriously submitting a fake as evidence. She mumbled something about getting it from City Hall, but couldn't back it up. My side rolled out the evidence: step-by-step letters, security video, fake notices, attempted extortion. The judge cut her off in the middle of a rambling speech about property values and neighborhood standards. The verdict: every count in my favor. Karen ordered to pay $35,000 for harassment and distress, another $15,000 in legal fees, and a permanent restraining order: she can't come within 100 feet of my property. But that wasn't the end. The criminal investigation found she'd embezzled over $100,000 in 8 years, little bits at a time, just enough to avoid obvious red flags, but it stacked up. She used HOA credit cards for shopping sprees, paid fake companies all her own, and padded her own reimbursements. Her criminal trial was even worse for her than the civil case. Forensic accountants, former board members, the whole neighborhood came forward. The prosecutor painted a picture of a woman drunk on power using the HOA like her own ATM. She tried to cut a plea deal, no dice. The trial lasted 2 weeks, and when the verdict came, Karen was found guilty on all counts: embezzlement, fraud, forgery, breach of fiduciary duty. Sentencing day. The courtroom was packed, neighbors, shoulder to shoulder. People cried as they told the judge about the lives she'd ruined. The judge handed down 3 years in state prison and ordered her to pay back every cent, $123,000. Karen just collapsed, sobbing, as the bailiff cuffed her and led her away. And me, I sat on my porch that night watching the news truck pack up, sipping my coffee, and listening to the neighborhood kids draw with chalk on the sidewalk, again, free for the first time in years. You know, some folks still argue about whether I did the right thing. Did I go too far? Was it justice or just payback? I guess it depends on how you see it. So what about you? Where's the line between standing up for yourself and starting a war? I'd love to hear your take. Drop your thoughts below, because in neighborhoods like this, everyone's got a story.